There you go, brothers and the occasional sister. Make the hay when the sun shines. The trouble with haymaking bales is you get these, thousands of them. Or Toyota Land Cruiser V8, no less. You get them on the top of the bale, and the only way you can do it is by hand, like that. And George on the tractor over there, we just stopped and had a look. We've already got 500 bales done so far, and we're not even halfway through the paddock. So it's going to be probably, I don't know, 1,500 bales out of this paddock. So I've got a big day ahead of me, and then we're going to get them into the shed over there. The views in this video are only my views from what I've experienced and learnt through my own journey through disease and winning it, and what I've found to work. Always talk to your physician, and always do your own homework and enlighten yourself by doing your own research as well. And just as science is always prepared to be wrong and go further to examine itself to find out what's right, I'm also open to being wrong and being taught something. If you can disprove what I'm saying with long-term studies of hard endpoints, I'd love to see them. I'm going to keep on working while I make a video because I haven't got time to stop and put the camera somewhere and just keep on picking up these as I go around the paddock talking to you. And geez, I'm bloody grateful to be walking around the paddock. I'm really grateful. Because a year ago, or a year and a half ago, I couldn't even walk up this bloody hill without pain in my heart, angina. That's long gone. That's long gone. I want to talk a little bit about this today. A lot of you won't want to hear this conversation. A lot of you will you filter it out and you'll go no. And that's absolutely fine, because the Brocheck Club channel is not about trying to get heaps of views and be popular on YouTube like what my other channel is. I'm trying to get heaps of views on that, and because that's my income. This channel here is to talk about things that are controversial, things that people don't want to talk about, to ask the hard questions, and also talk about solutions to problems. And what I want to share with you is science, but it's something that most of us don't want to hear. And it comes down to this: cardiovascular disease, which is the #1 killer, is a food-borne disease. Oh, but it's genetics in the family. Yes, we all genetically can get cancer, we can all genetically get heart disease, but it's switched on by certain factors. There's 3 factors that switch most disease processes on. Trauma is 1. 2 is the thoughts we have, believe it or not, but the main one, and 80%, is what we ingest. That means what we breathe in, what we inhale, and most of all what we put down our throat. In 1958 in Japan, they recorded 18 men that had died of prostate cancer. 18 men. What's the population there? 100 million? 20 years later, as the Western diet started to leak in, it went up to 120 odd, which is not much anyway still, because the traditional Japanese diet still is very low on animal and also particularly dairy products. So there's different proteins that cause different cancers. Casein, which is in milk and dairy products, is a known carcinogen. So when they took the pathology, and the Dr. Carbel B. Esselstyn's the guy that did it during the Vietnam War, they looked at the Viet Cong, because they all had to be, and the Americans, they had to be checked over by pathologists, and Dr. Carbel B. Esselstyn was the pathologist. He's a surgeon as well, and he noted something, that all the Viet Cong that were there, they had no atherosclerosis, no hardening of the arteries at all, because these are all young men, 18, 19, 20, like in their prime, and you wouldn't expect them to. But what he found in the Americans was all of them had the beginnings of it. Some advanced and some an amount. They all had different levels of atherosclerosis beginning, and these are young, strong men, the fittest of the fittest. So then he thought, well, maybe it's race. Maybe it's because the Viet Cong have different genetics. But then he looked at the Viet Cong that had been growing up in America, that had gone over to America to live, and you know what he found? They also had the same high rate. So then he started thinking about what could it be, and then it came down to the typical Western American diet. Now, Dr. Carbel B. Esselstyn, he grew up on a farm, beef farm. That's what he did. And his father had a farm. His father was also a surgeon. And he realised that the foods that were making people sick was actually the food he was a part to growing. Now me, old Clay here, no one likes his fat more than Clay. I've got an addiction to it. No one likes his meat more than Clay. I've got such an addiction to it that I've got ducks on the property that I grow just for one thing only, to eat. I hunt to eat, fish to eat. And no one would like cheese more than me, and cream and butter. I've been stuffing it down my throat. So for decades, I've been destroying my endothelium, because that's what it does. Oh, we can tolerate a certain amount, and if you're excessive like someone like me, then you can be sure that your endothelium is a complete train wreck. And the endothelium is the gateway to keeping us alive and strong and vibrant and healthy. Now, the heart disease process is one that can actually be halted, and in some cases even reversed, simply by changing the causation, or getting rid of the causation, more clearly would be a way to put it. There's an old proverb I've talked about before in some of my videos that comes from Tibet. It says that man is prepared to fight and die for the cause, but he's not prepared to give up the cause of his suffering. So the problem that old Dr. Carl B. Esselstyn had was he knew now, after doing the pathology during the Viet Cong, seeing all these people, and he opened up thousands of people, not hundreds but thousands. He got to see the coronary arteries of so many people, and when you see that many, you know it's not just a one-off chance. It became pretty much clear to him what was going on, but of course he couldn't prove it. He worked for the Cleveland Clinic, so he went to them. He said, I think I know what the big problem is here. He was a surgeon. He was doing surgery on cancer and surgery on heart disease, and he was finding that he'd do the surgery only for these people to get sick again, come back later after doing a stent or a bypass, and you know what? They'd get sick again. Nothing would fix the disease process. They might better slow it down for a minute, they'd all die just as soon. He had 20 patients that they had come to the end of their life. They'd done bypasses, they'd done stents, they'd done angioplasty, and these guys, there was no more. They were basically told to go home and die. So what he did was, he put all 20 on a whole plant-based diet, so the endothelium could thus start to create that such important magic molecule, nitric oxide, which creates vasodilation. And after a year, some of them reported, even less than a year, some after actually 6 weeks, reported that their angina symptoms had stopped. Now these people were all at end stage. They were very, very sick, but they weren't dying. And of course, people then said after a while, well, it's only a year. So he went for 5 years. Now the biggest problem he had was to enforce the diet. Because as I said, man is prepared to fight and die for the cause of his suffering, but not give up at it. And most people will not give up the foods they love. The majority of people don't have the strength. The majority of people are like, nah. So he wasn't a psychologist, so he didn't know how to deal with the psychology. But what he learnt was that people with cancer weren't afraid to suffer and have pain so much. People weren't afraid so much to even die. But the one thing that people were afraid of was for their loved ones and their doctors to abandon them. So he used that. And he said to his patients, I will not abandon you so long as you adhere to this important regime of no longer having any oils at all. No more salt. We know that hardens the arteries. Oil destroys the endothelial. No more dairy. No more animal protein. No more fish because of the oil. All of your nutrition is coming from plants. And this will give your endothelial a chance to heal itself. And maybe halt the disease, and perhaps even maybe in some cases reverse it. Well, hallelujah. It sure did halt it. In many cases it reversed it. But how do we test for that? Today we have CT scan, which gives you a definitive, clear picture of the vasal pathways, the capillaries and the arteries where the non-calcified plaque has gone back, receded back and become calcified. Yes, you don't get rid of it, it's still in the artery, but it's become stable. It's not that dangerous plaque that'll break off. Erectile dysfunctions in men, and even men that had their prostates removed and their bilateral nerves completely destroyed and severed. Like this fellow you're looking at right now, who were totally dysfunctional, suddenly getting their function back because all it is a pipe about the size of a pencil, a vein that fills up with blood when you have vasodilation. These things correlated, but that didn't give it 100% proof. But what did give 100% proof is these people all lived on for years and years and years when they were all supposed to die within a year. And people started like saying, well, you need to have bigger numbers. So they got 200 people. At 200 people, and the numbers were just outstanding. They were just incredible. So there is a way forward. Now the problem is that there's no money in that. There's no bloody money. Pharmaceutical companies make billions every year with statin sales. And you know, with statins, there's not even one scientific study out there that concludes that statins are any good for women. It's marginal for men, but there's also a lot of negative things that statins cause, like diabetes and muscle fatigue and muscle pain and calf, particularly legs. My mother was on statins and her calves and feet hurt. She went off them and she was fine. I'm not saying go off your statins, but I'm saying embrace in the cure. Most people by now watching this video have either started to get bored and switch off, or they're embracing what I'm saying because they want to live a healthier and better life. The ones that are switched off are switching off because we all like to hear good things about our bad eating habits. And I've talked to so many people about this, and very, very few of them are prepared to give up their bad eating habits. Very few of them. I've watched them die around me. The 8 men that all started on the same journey as me 19 months ago are all dead today. All of them dead. And some of them were not as bad as me. Now, I'm not saying I'm cured, because I'm not. I live with 2 disease processes myself. I live with cancer in remission, and I live with coronary artery disease. But I couldn't walk around this paddock and throw hay bales around or do a lot of hard-ass jobs. Couldn't go pig hunting or put my kayak out in the water. I still have paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, but it's getting better. And hopefully, when I get through, maybe by 5 years of being on this regime, I'm a lot better. This is a good thing about it. Most things you get worse. This one you halt it, and in many cases you get better. It's a funny one because it's just so really difficult to give up what we love, and most of us have some form of food addiction. Because if we didn't, we'd look at the science and we'd read what it really is out there, and there's over 10,000 papers now published on this that point towards it not only slowing rates of cancer down and Parkinson's down and dementia down and coronary artery disease down, but lots of many other diseases as well, but nobody wants to look at it. Anyway, brothers, I've been yakking for about 15 minutes, and that's probably long enough on the topic. I'm going to carry on going around because the machine spits these bastards out and pick them up. Got my dogs all hanging around me. Last night we did a bit of a mating. We put nut over mint, Tim Swan's dog. Placed in the paddock, hot. We're going to keep on picking these bastards up. There's George in the tractor over there, going for it. I've got a big day ahead of me. I'll carry on. I'll try and punch out something a bit more interesting than this yak for you. I don't expect this video is going to get many views or even get many likes, but that's okay. If it saves one person's life, then I've done my job. Have a great day, go steady. I'll see you next Bro Chick Club video. See you later.